Okay, so we are going to start adding CSS in this demo video. We have our HTML file open here. We're just going to be working with the index.html file, not the contact in this portion of the demo. I did want to show you how to hook up the navigation, so I did create that second page, but for the second half of the demo, we're not going to be working with the contact.html file. So you can just go ahead and make sure that you are in Sublime Text and that you have your index.html file open. So let's make a new file up here in the upper right corner with the plus button. And here we go. Let's do a file save as. And this is going to be our style.css file. This is going to be our style sheet. So make sure you're inside of your root folder and make a new folder and name it CSS, all lowercase. Go ahead and create that folder, and inside of this folder we're going to name this file style.css. So we want to always name our style sheet style.css. That .css functions much like .html in that it tells the browser that this is the style sheet. So go ahead and save that in the CSS folder we just created. So this is going to be our style sheet, and we're going to hook this up to the HTML. So these two can work together, but we do need to create a link in the HTML hooking it up to the style sheet. So I will show you how to do that. Style sheet links always go underneath the title in the head section of your HTML document. So if we start typing in link, somehow I got this to autofill last time. Okay, so caret link, and it'll put it in there for you if you do the autofill option. You do have to put the beginning caret sign and then start typing in link, but it will put the style sheet link in there for you. So link rel is style sheet, type is text/CSS, and then the href is where we really have to focus in on this particular link. We need to do a dot slash, which means inside the root folder, CSS, which is inside that CSS folder that we created, and then style. Look for this style.css. Look for this file, style.css, which is this file here. So this link, in theory, should hook up this page to this page, okay? And we're going to use this page to style our home page, to create different fonts, to create different sections and layouts. We have to use CSS to do that, to style our HTML. Okay, so let's quickly review a few anatomy terms for CSS. Okay, I'm going to show you this. So the selector is what we call out. So the p tag in this case is the selector. This whole thing inside the curly brackets is called the declaration box, or block, sorry. And then the declaration is this line of code here inside. And then the property is here. So the property for the p would be color in this particular case, and the value would be blue. So property, value, declaration, declaration block, and selector. Okay, so those are the different terms for, our CSS. Okay, so let's see if we actually have our style sheet working, if it's hooked up properly. So the best way to do that is just to test it. So let's start with the p tag. So make sure you're in your new style.css, and let's enter in the p lowercase and curly brackets, which should be next to your delete button somewhat if you're on a Mac especially. I'm not quite sure where they're at on the Windows, but the curly brackets should be easy enough to find. Push return to open those up, and let's go ahead and put a color on these. Let's put color. We can do an autofill, and then we can just put in yellow. Okay, and let's do a Command S to save that. Make sure you saved your index.html page too. If you don't save them, then this isn't going to work correctly. So let's go into Chrome. Let's go do File, Open File, and we just need to navigate to our index. If I can find it, the proper one here, Open. So let's look at our p tags. Yep, they turned yellow. So that means that my style sheet is linked up properly. If your p tags are not yellow, then that means there's probably a problem with either saving your two files or this link is not proper. So make sure this link is correct, and also make sure that your naming conventions are exactly correct in your documents where you saved this root folder. So inside here, you need to have a CSS file, all lowercase, because we need it to match. And then the name of the file inside of there needs to be style, all lowercase, no styles, style.css, and it needs to match so that the browser can find the style sheet. So this href is going to be really important, and how you've set up your folders needs to be exactly correct for the browser to be able to find this file. Hopefully it's working for you. So after styling it yellow, let's turn a background color on that p tag. Let's do a background color. So background, start typing that in. Color, you can do an autofill. Let's just put in like blue violet. Save that, you have to save, and then let's see what that does. And as you can see, it did add in the blue violet behind every p tag in our HTML. So we can get colors from this site specifically. It's the Adobe Color Contrast Analyzer. The accessibility area is kind of a nice area. We can search for colors here. You can use this color wheel. If you click on this, you can change your colors here. Like maybe if I want my text color, to be yellow, let's say, which is a bad color, but and then I want my background color to be a dark blue. I can enter that in, and I can get the hex values. And they do have suggestions for contrast, which usually just mean upping the contrast, which it's not bad using these contrast suggestions that they supply you with, because they do get you a better contrast ratio, which is better for accessibility. So we could copy and paste. Let's go ahead and do that. These colors, let's put the hex values in there, because honestly, the hex values are better to use than just the yellow and blue, and because they're better supported by different browsers and they're more accessible to people. So I think, using the hex color value is the best practice. So all of the colors in your document, in your CSS style sheet, please make sure that they are hex colors. You can find hex colors on the Adobe color accessibility tools fairly easily if you just come here and copy paste these. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's do Command S, and let's go here. Sometimes it asks you to purchase it, you just have to ignore it. So now it basically looks the same, but I just changed it to hex values. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in a universal selector, which is a star sign. And let's see, I'm gonna kind of bring this down in the style sheet. I'll start again. So do a Shift 8 to get that. And let's go ahead and put a font family in here. We want to style our whole HTML document, and we can do that with the star universal selector. And that will affect every font on the index.html page that we're hooked up to. So font family, Verdana, make sure to spell that correctly. And if we save this, let's go ahead, and it does change our font. So that's good. These universal selectors are kind of nice to use because you can hit everything at one time without specifying too much in the style sheet, which is nice. Okay, let's add a class into the first aside tag within the article tag. So let's go down, let's find the first aside tag, which is right here underneath the third section. And let's add a class. And we can do the autofill. And let's make it comments. And save that. And that every class usually goes inside of the opening tag that you're styling. And then let's go into the style.css and let's try to target this by doing dot comments. So to target a class, we need to do a dot. So inside of here, let's put color teal. I know I'm not going with what I told you to do by putting in the word teal instead of using a hex code. I could quickly enough go here and pull a teal up and grab that. So you might want to go ahead and do that. I should practice what I preach, I guess. So, and then when we push refresh, you can see that did change that to teal. Now, obviously the background color and the foreground color aren't working for accessibility purposes, but for the purpose of this demo, that's fine. So we can call out classes by the dot and making sure that this word matches what we put in our HTML. Okay, exactly. So don't spell it wrong, don't put in an uppercase or anything like that. Just keep it all lowercase, just to keep it simple. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a selector in here of just all the aside tags, kind of like the p tags, but just the aside tag, and color. And let's do a red. Let's just do a red. I'm not going to use the Adobe contrast checker color tool thing. But as you can see, when we did that, it did get these other aside tags, but it did not get the class one. And the class, the aside tag that we put the class of comments on is stronger in hierarchy than just a regular HTML element that were like an aside tag. So classes are stronger than a lot of things. So just remember that classes will override a lot of styling on just straight up HTML tags. Okay, and you can actually have more than one class on an HTML element. So let's go into HTML. I just want to show you how that works. We can do uppercase. So go ahead and put a space between comments and uppercase and type in uppercase. Make sure it's all lowercase. I'm just going to Command C to copy that over. I'm going to put a return here, a dot, and I'm going to Command V uppercase so I don't have to type it in. And I can make this, let's see here. I believe it's text transform uppercase. And that should make, if we save this and refresh, it should make some of our text uppercase. Let's see, did it? I'm not seeing it. And it didn't work because I didn't save my HTML. So I need to go into my HTML file, save that. So we have, if we make changes to the HTML, we have to save that. If we make changes to the CSS file, we have to save that. Now we can see that that did actually work. It did create an uppercase aside tag on that same tag that we made teal. And that's basically just kind of an example of using two classes on one HTML element. In this case, the first aside tag. Okay, let's get back into Sublime Text. Let's get into our HTML document, the index.html, and let's put an ID of first section on the first section tag. IDs are much like classes in that they go into the opening tag of an HTML element. So we can start typing in ID. They work much like a class does. Let's name this first section. And if you do have two-word IDs, just make sure you put a dash in there. And also remember to use IDs very sparingly. IDs are going to be used less frequently than like a class would be. IDs are only used for styling a single HTML element and giving it its own unique style. And IDs are actually the strongest. They will override every other style that you've applied to that element. IDs will override everything. So they do need to be used sparingly for that reason, but they're a little different than classes in that we have to use a pound sign. So if we want to call that out in our CSS, we have to do the pound plus the name that we just entered. Oops. And then let's inside here, let's go ahead and put a background color of green. We are not going to use the hex value for a few of these just because I just want to save a little time. And that didn't work. I might not have saved my HTML once again. That's probably what happened. Yes. Okay, so we do have a background color on the first section, and you can see how that's looking. So in the next video, we'll keep going with CSS. Hopefully I can wrap these videos up relatively quickly.